Hello, welcome to the X-Point YouTube channel. Today we have a match between Loekie, the founder of X-Points, playing a red, green, and white zoo deck, and Boss, who's playing a deck that he calls Greedy Enchantress. This match occurred during the group stages of X-Point tournament number 19. If you would like to skip straight to the games, you can do so using the timestamps in the description below. And as a refresher, X-Points is an old-school Magic variant that uses the Atlantic rule set as well as a point system, where players can spend up to 10 points for the cards you see on the screen. So with that out of the way, let's check out these decks. First up, we have the deck of Loekie. He is playing a red, white, and green zoo deck. He's featuring 16 one-drop creatures. Now, the Curd Apes, the Savannah Lions, and the Scrib Sprites you have probably seen before, but Loekie is also running 4 Gazban Ogres. This is a card from Arabian Nights. It's a 2/2 for 1 green mana, but at the beginning of your upkeep, whichever player has the most life gains control of the Ogre. So normally this is not a problem because Loekie plans to be the aggressor and plans to have more life. However, there are situations where you can play it out on turn 1, and then your opponent plays Mountain Lightning Bolt, and then not only have you lost a creature, but you've lost a creature that trades with your Savannah Lions. So something to be aware of. We'll see how effective the Ogre is in this match. For his 2-drop, Loekie has decided to play Elvish Archers instead of Argothian Pixies, which probably helps him out in the mirror. And also, it's not like anybody in X-Points plays Mishra's Factory anyway, so probably a good call there. And his top end is just 2 Urnum Djinns, in case the little creatures can't get through. For spells, he has 4 Lightning Bolts, 4 Giant Growths, and 2 Chain Lightnings. To me, this seems a little odd because in most zoo/burn decks that I've seen and or played, players tend to max out on Chain Lightnings before going to Giant Growth, simply because Giant Growth cannot go to the face, at least not directly. But Loekie is also playing a pair of Berserks, so the idea could be to cast a couple of Giant Growths on a Scrib Sprites, for example, and then cast a Berserk. That's 2 Giant Growths plus 1 Berserk on a Scrib Sprite is 14 damage, presumably out of nowhere. For his points, Loekie has decided to play the 3 On-Color Moxen and 4 Mishra's Factories. So the interesting part about this is, for one, that Moxen are being played because they're not played that much in X-Points, and secondly, that Loekie chose 4 Mishra's Factories over something like Wheel of Fortune. A lot of these low-to-the-ground zoo decks love to refill their hand, and so I could see him having played, 4 Cities of Brass and then used his final 4 points on a wheel and a Time Twister or something like that. But he hasn't. He likes the Mishra's Factories, as many people in X-Points do. It's almost like it's a 6-point format in some cases, and this is just another example of that. Rounding out the deck, just your normal Fireball, Disenchant, Chaos Orb. We'll see if he can overwhelm Boss's Greedy Enchantress deck. Here's the deck of Boss. He calls it Greedy Enchantress because it is a 4-color build based around Verduran Enchantress. Enchantress is a 0/2 green creature that lets you draw a card whenever you cast an enchantment spell. The greedy part of his name comes that he is splashing black for 2 Dark Heart of the Wood, a Greed, and a Demonic Tutor. The Greed here is an enchantment itself, so you draw a card when you cast it, and then you can pay 1 black mana and 2 life to draw a card at any time. So this is a way to draw multiple cards in a turn, assuming you have the life and the black mana available. Since it's an Enchantress deck, he is foregoing a lot of the traditional removals, such as Swords to Plowshares or Terror, and instead playing with 4 Spirit Link, which allows Boss to gain life whenever that creature deals damage. And he's playing 2 Control Magics to just take the creatures that his opponent plays. In order to win the game, Boss has 4 Serendib Ifrits and 2 Serra Angels. He also is playing 4 copies of Psychic Venom, which is an enchantment for 1 blue and 1 colorless. You play it presumably on an opponent's land, and then every time that land is tapped, Psychic Venom deals the land's owner 2 damage. So this is kind of a cute trick because you can draw a card when you cast Psychic Venom, assuming you have an Enchantress in play. The one thing that Boss is missing here is a way to force the opponent to tap the land that Psychic Venom is on. So I'm not sure how effective Psychic Venom will be at closing out a game, but it is nice to see a card that doesn't get played very much. For his points, Boss has spent 3 on a Demonic Tutor, 1 on a Regrowth, and like Loekie, has spent 6 points on 3 different Moxen. So I don't know if people were just getting fed up with all the land destruction in X points or what's happening, but here we have a Mox Pearl, Mox Jet, and a Mox Sapphire. Curiously, no Mox Emerald, which would let him cast an Enchantress a turn sooner, but maybe he has enough green mana in his lands that that's not entirely necessary. And then Demonic Tutor, of course, can go fetch an Enchantress or whichever utility enchantment he needs, whether that be the Greed, the Moat, or the Dark Heart of the Woods. I think this match is going to come down to how fast Boss can draw a Moat or Dark Heart of the Woods. If he gets one of those 2 enchantments down relatively soon, I think he'll be able to fend off Loeke's attacks. If he does not, however, Loeke's deck is very fast, and if Boss stumbles in setting up, I think the match will go to Loekie. So with that in mind, let's get to the match. Okay, here we are for game number 1. Loekie starts off with a Savannah and a Gazban Ogre. So it's the card we were talking about during the deck tech. He doesn't yet know what Boss is on, so he could be fearing a Mountain and a Lightning Bolt. Clearly he's not fearing much turn 1 damage out of a Tundra, sort of like a Psychic Purge. Boss does have a Spirit Link for the Gazban Ogre, so effectively neutralizing it. Let's see if Loekie can follow it up with some more 1-drops. There's a Scrib Sprites and a pass. All right, so the Sprites should be able to get into the air and let Loekie keep control of the Ogre for the foreseeable future. Boss there with a Tropical Island and has to pass it back. It's a little video stuttering, or at least while I'm watching the playback. So Scrib Sprites getting in for 1. Boss falls to 19. Draws for the turn. And has a Serendib Efreet. All right. So the good part for Loekie is that the Efreet will keep ticking down Boss's life and letting him keep the Gazban Ogre. That is until the Efreet starts swinging. Loekie is thinking about swinging with the Scrib Sprites and bluffing a Giant Growth or a Lightning Bolt. So we'll see if he either has it or decides to bluff it. And he just passes. Very few creatures out of Loekie so far, despite the fact that he's running 22, I think, in the deck. And there's a Control Magic from Boss on the Scrib Sprites. And so now, with Loekie being at 20, the Serendib will get in and knock him to 17, which means that Boss will get the Ogre during Loeke's upkeep step. And so now Boss has all of the creatures. Let's see if Loekie has any way to get himself out of this situation. He's got a Savannah Alliance, which at least can block the Ogre. Not sure if Loekie is in the market to trade. But there's a Spirit Link on the Serendib Efreet. So not only will that negate the damage that Boss will take each upkeep, but he will gain life for each damage that the Serendib does. So he goes up to 21. It's what you hate to see as a Zoo player, somebody going up in life. Boss has a second Serendib Efreet, and now he looks like the aggressor in this match. His very slow Enchantress deck currently looks neither slow nor Enchantressy. We'll see what Loekie can do. He's going to swing in for 2. Yeah, Boss has no problem taking 2 damage from the Lions. Loekie plays another Factory and an Urnum Djinn. So the Urnum can attack through the Serendibs, assuming Boss holds them back. I don't see why they wouldn't get through in the air, but you never know. Yep, there comes 7 flying damage. Loekie is going to fall from 13 to 6. And Boss taking the damage from his City of Brass to cast Venduran Enchantress. All right, so there's the Enchantress part of his deck. He's already played several enchantments, but better late than never. So there's Loekie. He's giving Forest Walk to the Enchantress. It's a very sound play. A great earn him target, as the Enchantress has no power. So Taiga from Loekie. We'll see if he can get in. He'll need a miracle because he is dead in the air next turn. Either needs a way to deal 20 damage in one turn or a way to kill at least one of the Serendibifreets. And if he can't do that... Now, curiously, he only needs to get boss to 2 because the Serendib triggers will go on the stack, and that Spirit Link will not trigger until boss has already taken the damage. So if Loekie could deal 18, he would have it. So Loekie has a bolt for the Ogre. And he's coming in with 2, 4, 8. Not quite enough. We'll see if he has Giant Growth Berserk Trickery. And of course, boss could block something. So we'll see. Boss is doing the math, right? If you have a Berserk and a Giant Growth, what happens? So he's going to block, and that's going to save him, yes, because he has a Giant Growth and the Berserk. So if boss elected not to block there, he would have lost the game. Or if Loekie had had another green mana, boss would have lost the game. Old school Magic made up of ifs, what ifs. But boss takes game number 1 by basically the skin of his teeth. Let's go on to game number 2. Okay, here we are for game number 2. Loekie has mulled down to 5. Boss has mulled down to 6. So it's one bright side for Loekie, being down cards on the play. He's got a City of Brass into a Scrib Sprites. Boss has a Savannah. Swings in for 1. Loekie has a Curd Ape, but no Forest. So he has 2 1/1s. If boss can get out a blocker, be good. Loekie still with 1 land, plays another Curd Ape. So if he ever finds a forest, oh, it's going to be something else. There's a Serendibifreet, which currently stops all of Loeke's creatures. Let's see if Loekie has a Red Blast from his sideboard. And he does. All right. So he's getting in there for 3. Boss falls all the way to 11. He's taking some own damage from his city. Oh, he's up to 12. Yeah, they're adjusting life totals. Boss takes another one from his city to play an Enchantress. It will block nobody since Loekie did find a forest. So those Curd Apes will get through the Enchantress. Scrib Sprites will fly over the Enchantress. Yep, Loeke's coming in with the team. Boss takes all the damage. Giant Growth from Loekie sends boss all the way to 2. He has 4 mana. At this point, not even a moat saves him because he'll have to take one from the City of Brass. Oh yeah, he's thinking about that, right? And then the Scrib Sprites will fly over for the last point of damage. This looks like it might be Loeke's game. He might have kept a hand with enough 1-drops to get there. Boss taps for nothing and scoops him up. So I think he did have the moat and realized he couldn't do it. But Loekie takes game number 2, evening the series. Let's go to game number 3. Okay, game number 3 for all the marbles. Looks like both players have kept their starting 7s. Boss starts out with one of the Moccasin. It's maybe the first Mox we've seen this match, despite there being 6 of them. And boss has a turn 2 Serendib, which is going to hold off the turn 1 Gazban Ogre from Loekie. He's swinging in. Clearly no blocks. Boss felt the only way you swing in is if you have the Giant Growth. So he didn't call the bluff. Loekie had it and used the Giant Growth. I guess get in while the getting's good. There's boss swinging for 3 in the air. Loekie falls to 17. And can Loekie come up with another land? At the very least, another creature. Gets in for 2, extends his life lead a bit. And there's the Savannah Lions. So at some point, boss might have to hold back the Serendib. Although it will slowly tick down his life, which is what Loekie wants anyway. There's a control magic from boss on the Savannah Alliance. So now boss should feel free to swing in, and Loekie falls to 14. Fortunately, he gets to keep the ogre for one more turn. Loekie probably kept all of his disenchants in. I think they are joking about Loekee's lack of red mana here. Is Loekie going to offer the trade with his own Savannah Alliance, turning that control magic into a 2-for-1. Now, oddly, if he doesn't offer the trade, boss could eventually get the Gospan Ogre anyway, so might be better to do it now. We'll see if boss decides to block here. He doesn't really care about giant growth because the Savannah Alliance was Loekee's to begin with. Boss decides to block, yep, and the two creatures just trade. So Loekie doesn't have to worry about being in the life lead anymore, at least from a Gospan Ogre perspective. From a winning the game perspective, he would like to have the most life. Boss falls to 10 from his own Serendib. And there's a Spirit Link on the Serendib. That's how boss won game number 1. We'll see if it's good enough to win game number 3. And yep. Loekie falls to 11. Boss climbs up to 13, taking the lead for the first time in this game. See if Loekie's going to swing for 4. Boss falls to 9. Takes 9 from the dib. Boss is maybe a little flooded. Swings in with the dib. He's not afraid of the giant growth. But perhaps he should have been. So giant growth trades off with the Spirit Link Serendib. Boss will gain the life, go up to 12. But now he has nothing holding back the archers, the factory, or the script sprites. Only 2 cards in hand, it looks like. So he'll need, like, maybe an Enchantress into some runners or something. There's Loekie swinging for 5. Boss chooses not to block with the birds. Guess a moat also significantly slows down the clock if he can find that. 3 cards. And a Demonic Tutor. What is he going to get? Feel like I'm getting a moat if I'm him. But I don't know. Could also get a Dark Heart of the Woods. I guess though he only has 1 forest. So it's only 3 life. Yeah. I feel like it's moat and hope to dodge the disenchant. And it is. There we go. Could have got Psychic Venom just for the memes. Though I wouldn't be surprised if he boarded those out. Yeah, boss going, what are you going to do? Loekie is, at least fortunately, be able to get in with the script sprite, so he can slowly chip away. But it just gives boss more times to find answers. Yep, there's 1. And there's the second script sprite, so boss is now on a 3-turn clock. I guess 4 with the Birds of Paradise. And a second Birds of Paradise, so 2 roadblocks in the way. Doesn't speed up the clock by a turn. 2 script sprites coming in. And boss falls to 4. Still no red mana for Loekie, so a bolt could finish this off. Or and there's a Psychic Venom on, I don't know, the factory maybe? Yep, yeah, clarifying that here. Loekie using a upside down card to denote the Psychic Venom. It's going to be on the Savannah. And Loekie with 6 cards in his hand, presumably most of them red. See, he's swinging in with the 2 script sprites. And boss doesn't want to be in bolt range, so he chumps both of them. Loekie doesn't have a bolt, or at least doesn't have a mountain. Now, boss is dead to mountain bolt. He's dead to a giant growth. This is where having spirit links over swords to plowshares is worse because you can't bluff. There's a giant growth. Two red blasts in, two blue blasts in boss's hand rather, and no red mana. So Loekie was unable to cast any of his red cards. Now, fortunately, we have another game. These two players played at game number 4 because boss never really got to show what his deck did. So even though the match is over, Loekie has won 2-1. Let's go to game number 4. Okay, on to game number 4. This one is just for fun. Both players keep their starting 7, I believe. And boss will be on the play. Starts with a turn 1 Birds of Paradise. Let's see if Loekie doesn't have a mountain. I think speaking Danish or Dutch, I should really learn what the proper term is. But I listened and boss was joking that there was no Bolt the Bird. There's a Taiga, so he has Bolt the Enchantress. That's probably better given boss's deck. Interestingly, this game, Loekie has no 1-drop creatures. And so there's boss with a DT. Curious what he's going to get. You could make an argument for getting Moat, as that holds back most of Loki's forces. You could make another argument for getting an Enchantress, just to like get the engine going, especially if you're playing game number 4, to show what your deck can do. My money is on one of those two cards. Boss is taking a long time to think about it. We'll see what he actually gets. This might be prime time for Psychic Venom too, hoping that Loekie is stuck on lands. Though I really don't think that's the game that boss is playing. See if Loekie just gets in with the factory for 2. And then bolts the bird anyway. So, yeah, that bolt the bird makes a little less sense to me, especially if you know that boss is just DT'd. Presumably for Enchantress. And a little bit of glitch in the video here. Came like that. At some point we'll make a how to record your X-Point game so they're not glitchy, and I'll make a little tutorial. Just kidding, I probably won't. Dark Heart of the Wood from boss. So now every forest he has, which looks like he has 2, is 3 additional life. So Loekie is going to have to deal much more than 20 damage this game. It's already going to have to deal 26 at least. And that Enchantress allowing boss to draw more cards means Loki's damage burden is just going to keep going up and up and up. He's getting in there for 4 though, with the 2 factories. And there's a Gazban Ogre. Fortunately now, boss doesn't even have... Oh, he has 3 forests. Okay. There's a Savannah hiding under the scrubland. So boss could sack all of his... 3 of his lands, go up to 20 and take control of the Ogre. That would be a heck of a play. Instead, he's just going to control Magic the Ogre. And Loki's looking at it to see, will it still flip back and forth even if it's controlled? The answer is yes, but not until boss's next upkeep. So Loekie won't get it, won't be able to attack with it, and then boss can use it to chump a factory. It's the second Dark Heart of the Woods, which draws him a card off the Enchantress, but doesn't add any additional utility. You can only sack a forest once. So Loki's in a bit of a rough spot. Boss is not really applying much pressure, but he's got his engine going. And Loekie is not applying a lot of pressure. Certainly not enough pressure given the Dark Heart of the Woods. See if he keeps going in with the factories or if he decides to go a different route. Yeah, Loki's thinking if he doesn't attack, he still gets it back because he has the most life, unless boss decides to sack 3 forests. Oh, he just red blasts to control magic. So they're fighting over some ogres, which will go back and forth anyway. At least it does allow Loki to get in with the 2 factories, and boss falls to 7, which is secretly 16 with the dark hearts. I assume there's 2 drops they're hiding. There's a dance of many copying the Enchantress. And a Spirit Link on the Ogre. So that will draw boss 2 cards. And there's a Bayou. 3 more life. So he's effectively at 19. Fortunately for Loki, he gets to keep his Ogre because he's not practically at 19. And there's the Greed. And he's going to draw 2 cards off of each of his Enchantresses. So he might not even need to activate the Greed. But he could using the birds. How many cards does boss want to draw? And if you remember, if he draws a card, pays 2 life to draw a card, and it happens to be a forest, he can just play that forest and it nets him 1 life instead of 3 when you take off the 2 from the Greed. So boss looks in the driver's seat. Looks like he can churn through most of his deck at this point. Might have to be careful for instant speed lightning bolts, but not really when you have 4 forests out. Loki's getting in with 2 factories. But he is at functional 19, so I imagine he'll... Oh, he blocks one of the factories, which would keep him from sort of dying to the giant growth, or having to sacrifice a forest to the giant growth. So he just took 5 and he falls to 2. So he can't use the Greed currently. He can sack a forest, though, to use it. And he's going to tap the 3 and play a Dib at 2 life. Put a Spirit Link on the Dib. All right. Draw 2 cards off of the Spirit Link. And it's worth noting that even if Loki had had like a red blast for the Dib, the Enchantress trigger is on cast, so he still would have drawn for casting the Spirit Link. With all the cards boss has been drawing, he still only has 2 in hand, however, so we'll see. He could just sack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 15 life to play with in his forests. Can turn all of those into cards with Greed. Curiously, boss has decided not to go super cute and also run fast bond, so he can, do it forever. He does sack a forest to go to 5, and he's going to Greed to draw a card, falling to 3. Plays a Spirit Link on presumably his Serendib. Yep. Now, Spirit Link is not actually lifelink, so he will gain twice the life. He'll actually gain a life during his upkeep instead of losing 1, and he'll gain 6 on the attacks. So this is exactly what boss wants to do. This is why the deck is called Greedy Enchantress, because with the Spirit Links and the Dark Hearts, he can basically draw his entire deck 1 black mana at a time. And we'll see if Loki has anything to say about it. There's a red blast for the Dib, so he had it the whole time, and that's got to be a comfort. So boss will not run away with gaining 7 life a turn. That's got to feel good. Loki comes in for 4 with the factories. He's going to block 1 of them with the Dance of Many Enchantress. And there's an Urnum. Loki is out of cards. It's his final push. He just has to deal 1 more damage to boss, plus 3 for each forest in play, which currently looks like 4 forests. So he has to deal 13. Boss will now also only draw 1 card per enchantment because the Dance of Many is gone. And there's a second Enchantress to contradict what I just said. So now he'll draw 2 per enchantment, and he draws 2 for the Moat, which stops the Urnham Djinn Cold. Also stops the Gazban Ogre. So, can Loekie find a Fireball for 13? He is playing Disenchants and Chaos Orb, so he could get in with the Moat. He also has Script Sprites of his own to fly over. We'll see if Boss can close the game out before Loekie can find an answer to the Moat. Boss sacks the Forest, goes up to 4. Draws 1 with the Greed, falls to 2. And this is really a disheartening situation to be in when you are an aggro player. Your opponent is drawing 1,000,000 cards and gaining infinity life. Yep. Boss, sacking Forest, drawing cards. Sacking more Forest, drawing more cards. Luckily for Loekie, Boss does have an Enchantress that he can get Forest Walk to, so it's not like he's taking free damage. Though, to be fair, I guess any ground creature would be good enough with the Moat out. There, Boss plays a Dib at 1 life. The world's probably not first Dib at 1 life, but certainly is interesting. So the Dib trigger will go on the stack. Boss will clearly sack a Forest. Gain 3 life. Goes up to 4, falls to 3. And you can hear the actual Puffs McGee in the background there. That made it through. He's just being a whiny crybaby today. There's a control magic on an Urnham for whatever good that does. Sorry. Oh. Oh, man. All right. Okay. The Dib flies over the Moat. Sorry if there was a cut there. I did go take care of my dog. And hopefully I can stitch this together in post in a way that makes sense. Doesn't sound too crazy. There's Boss with a Sarah, so he's flying over. Loekie is on a very short clock. 2 turns. Unless he can find a Blue Blast for the Dib. Or a Fireball for the Sarah. There's another Psychic Venom, which won't do much, but does allow him to draw 2 cards off the Enchantresses. And swings in for 7. Sarah just tapping itself for good measure. Just wants to get in on the action. And another Sarah. So Hurricane for 4. It's like 1 outer. There's Kurt Ape, and that's the game. So Moat takes it, and Boss takes game number 4 with, his fun Greedy Enchantress deck. Though Boss won game number 4, Loekie won 2 of the first 3, so he took the match and got the points for tournament number 19. It was cool, though, to see Boss's deck and what it was meant to do. A lot of times people make spicy decks and they don't come together in the best of 3s, and that's a little disappointing. So it's nice that they were able to play a 4th game and we were able to see the deck as it was intended. Next week, we're going to have a match from the top 4 of X-Point Tournament 19. Don't have preview deck pictures at this point, but we'll certainly have them by the time of that recording. If you would like more information about this format, head over to xpointoldschool.com, where you can find information about the rule sets as well as the monthly tournament series we run on Talaria. If you would like to be featured on the channel, head over to our Facebook or Discord, get in touch with the media team. We'd love to have more decks and more people featured on the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content just like this. And as always, thanks for watching.